Well, let's get started then. All right, so hello everyone. I guess welcome to our showcase presentation for Grouve. Yeah, let's get right into it. So a quick overview of our project. Just want to talk a little bit about how Grouve came to be and what our project is all about. So to broaden the context first, we want to talk about our sponsor. And our project is a little unique in that our sponsor was us. So we tried sort of a new path for senior design this year, as all of the members of our team are second-year software engineers that have already completed senior design and met all of those requirements. And so we proposed a plan to self-sponsor a project this year. And that's exactly what we did. So as part of this process, we took a much broader approach to project development, as we'll talk about, but we acted as our own sponsor and ended up actually forming our own legal entity company that would be the sponsoring company for our product. 347 LLC is our student-founded software development company, and we invested a lot of time into developing this company as well as our product. So to touch on our stakeholders, Dr. Suzette Person and Dr. Chris Bone were our faculty advisors for this project. We were able to meet with them, get a lot of great help from them throughout the semester, and we're super appreciative to everything that they did to help Grouve come to be. Obviously, the Grouve team members, we have 9 student team members who worked on this application. And as we'll talk about in a little bit, the main focus of our application is events. So Grouve is an event planning software. And as such, we really saw our primary stakeholders throughout the year as being event hosts and event attendees. I want to quickly touch upon our team, although as you can see, there's a lot of us, so I'm not going to go through everyone individually. But I do want to point out the roles that everyone had. So as you can see, and as I've mentioned, our roles covered a lot more than just development. We also had business managers, UI designers. We had developers on a mobile application and a web application, as well as database architects, DevOps engineers. So you can see that our students really got a lot done and often had to wear multiple hats. I'll hand it over to Maggie to talk about Grouve a little more specifically.
Okay, so we created Grouve because we felt that the current ticketing and event planning service, you guys are able to hear me, correct?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Sorry, I'm having a little trouble with internet connection. I'm currently at work at the moment. But anyways, we created Grouve because we felt that current ticketing and event planning solutions were very generalized and therefore it lacked specialized features such as the cooperative music selection. Thus, we thought there would be space for software that integrates these specialized features for varied events such as personal gatherings, fundraisers, sporting events, and even local business events, since there are currently no major players with a dominant market share in this space. So then what is it that Grouve delivers exactly? So Grouve is the only event planning service that is both what you want and how you want it. So we deliver the software that hosts use to organize both casual and professional events and allows them to democratize music sharing. So for instance, some of these features include event creation and editing and also user profile management. And so by packaging these features into one cohesive service, Grouve is actually able to provide a much more complete event planning experience. And so that's kind of the idea behind what Grouve will end up delivering. And so next, Ethan will kind of go into a little bit about Groove's focus.
Yeah, so really the focus of Grouve is that we wanted to make an event planning service that was shaped around events, which sounds like it should be a no-brainer. But as we were analyzing the market and what's out there, we found a lot of event planning services that were trying to make events shape around them rather than the other way around. And our approach to event-specific features was add-ons. So the idea is that, of course, every event planning service is going to have some standard features. You're going to have to be able to create an event. You're going to have to be able to enter information for that event, like what is the event called? Where is it hosted? When is it? And who's coming? But on top of that, there's a lot of features that software can do to help event hosts and event attendees have a better time. But not every feature is going to be useful for every event, right? The features that you want for a wedding are not going to be the same as you want for a birthday party. So add-ons allow us to provide flexible feature sets so that if I'm planning a birthday party, I could enable add-ons with specific features that are going to be useful for me that might not be useful for other events that I would host. So when developing these add-ons, we took a really focused approach, at least to begin with, on add-ons that focus on the ambiance of the environment of the event. So that's why we've talked about music integration quite a bit, because that was one of the first add-ons that we thought, this is going to be really valuable. And so our first add-on is allowing hosts to sync their music streaming service like Spotify or Apple Music, and then collaborate and democratize music with their event. So attendees could, request a specific song or add a song to the queue without the host having to deal with that issue. So how actually Grouve delivers this, I don't want to dig too deep into the technical details, but I think it's worth mentioning. Like I said, we had a lot of developers that put on a lot of different hats. We have two main ways that we deliver our functionality. The first is a website. It's built upon React, Chakra UI, and then we had database architects that created an awesome extensible Firebase database that power both the website and the mobile app. The mobile app, in turn, was powered by React Native and relied on the same Firebase database, which is why we have, at this point, and plan to continue, feature parity between the mobile app and the website, so that you're not missing out on any feature or experience by switching between one or the other. So I just want to go through a few screenshots that kind of give you an idea of how Grouve delivers its features. So this is one that we've talked a lot about. This is the music add-on. So currently in development, we're allowing an event host here to sync up their music service, to tinker with some settings on how they want the event playlist to work, and how they want the queue to work during the event. Do they want to allow their attendees to just add songs anytime, or do they want to be able to approve them? Things like that. So this is one of the ways that we think Grouve is unique. If you have an event with music, you can enable this add-on, and it allows you to really customize the music experience for your event. I think for things like, gathering with some friends over or a birthday, this is the kind of thing that hosts would like to use. Going into still the website, we have, this is sort of the main dashboard. If you want to see all the events you're hosting, you can see kind of a summary with all of these tiles. So each one can give you information at a glance, like how many people have signed up to attend your event, when the event is, just give you a little reminder of, hey, this is coming up. When you actually click on an event, you get some statistics for that event. So you can see off to the right, like some quick statistics about, hey, here's how many people you've invited. Here's how far out the event is. And then in the center, you can see sort of event options, like being able to review RSVP requests, edit the number of people who are invited, things like that. So a lot of this is, again, delivering standard event management features, but adding a little bit of something extra that we think is going to make the event planning process that much better. But I also mentioned we have a mobile application, which of course we do. So we deliver the same features on the mobile application. You can see here, it's our login and profile screen, pretty standard setup, as well as the ability to view all events. So you can see on the host dashboard, the events that are coming up. Then when you're creating an event, you're able to see details like you can enter in like what the event name is, description, date. You could charge a ticket price, for a more formal event. Maybe you need, to sponsor food or something, then people can contribute to that, as well as an RSVP form where you can ask your attendees special questions that you might need to know before they attend. And now I'll hand it back to Maggie to talk about some highlights of this project.
Yeah, so Grouve ended up being the first student-sponsored senior design project. So thus, as a team, we ended up having to handle decisions and work that was typically the responsibility of the sponsors. So this means we participate in activities such as project discovery, refinement, and so on in order to make sure the product would be marketable and have a clear focus. We also had to clarify Groove's features and kind of the priorities of the project. But despite all of these extra responsibilities, we were still able to create a mobile and web application and actually go through the formal process of creating an LLC. With that though, that is all we have for you. So if you have any questions or comments, feel free to go ahead and ask them.
How did it feel being on both sides of the table, so to speak, as both sponsor and developers?
It provided a great new perspective because you got to see kind of what the sponsors had to go through when it comes to a project, along with also seeing what you need to keep in mind whenever it came to the development side. So you kind of got a new appreciation for everything the sponsors had to do in order for a project to work.
Yeah, I think you also feel a lot more invested in the requirements. I mean, it's one thing when a sponsor hands you requirements for an application that you don't really know as much about, but when you're the one setting those requirements, you're a lot less likely to let any of them go.
Sure. What's the plan after May?
Yeah, so there's actually 4 of us, 9 members are sticking with the project, and we're gonna kind of work through what the next couple of steps are and kind of take Grouve where we can.
Well, good luck with that.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but you guys are mostly focusing on events made by, for example, a person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
rather than maybe like a I don't know, a company or something like that. I mean, it could probably be used by a company too.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say that's definitely our initial focus. We've done a lot of our testing, most of our user testing, obviously with individuals, not necessarily companies, but that's what we hope add-ons can deliver is, we could write add-ons in the future that might be more geared towards those like maybe enterprise users, if that's what you want to call them.
Gotcha. Just this is like a discussion or talking point, not necessarily a or maybe you can kind of think of it almost as a question too. But what's really interesting is that we have other ticketing software or event software, such as, for example, Ticketmaster, which a lot of people just absolutely hate and lament. So you might have already been thinking about this, but maybe start as just event driven for people and whatnot, and then maybe at some point, if you get big enough, you could start challenging certain people, and if you have better customer service, then people are going to love you, and obviously they're going to use you over a certain somebody.
Yeah, we've definitely looked into that too. A lot of research that we've done since the business side has been like competitor research, and kind of looking at what the different companies offer and what maybe they're lacking in. So then in the hopes that Grouve can help make that better and become the better option.
Okay, and then in terms of I guess financial support, obviously when you have a sponsor, they're the support here. How did you guys manage that?
Do you mean just in the sense of kind of providing like the tools and everything needed, or?
So, I mean, in terms of, for example, I'm thinking about it right now, and you would obviously need some web hosting, right, for login information and all those things, and just keeping the data. Are you guys doing, paying it out of your own pocket, or is it like, do you have some sponsor or something like that? I don't know.
Yeah, so actually currently right now it's all kind of self-funded. We have been able to get like any bills to really not be that much, maybe a few pennies here and there in that sense. So nothing like too drastic right now, but obviously as we grow with Grouve, we're going to be looking at like where we can potentially make money, so we'd be able to pay for different things such as that. And so that's kind of our like sales tactics, what we're looking at now, and where we're going to go ahead and get that financial income from.
This is more of a technical question now. As far as like the back end, what service are you using? Are you like Amazon Web Services, or just, I guess, tell me about the back end?
Yeah. So we actually did start with AWS as a backend service that we use, but because of some just technical limitations with exactly what we wanted to do with it, we ended up switching over to Firebase, specifically Firestore, as our main backend component that we use for all event data, profile data, log, all that kind of stuff.
and I'm not very familiar with the app component, but so obviously React is cross-platform. And so when it comes to, for example, having it as a app for Android or iOS, what's the process like for that?
Yeah. So I could, yeah, I could talk about that all day. That's Android. We obviously used React Native as that because of that cross-platform support. And so it is really nice being able to deploy something simultaneously. I do like testing when I'm doing front-end development for iOS and Android side by side, and I can look at what it's going to look like. It does cause some interesting issues sometimes. There'll be certain components or certain things where you know, you have to think like Android and iOS have very different design languages in some ways, right? A way that information or options would be presented to a user on Android is very different in some circumstances than the way it would be on iOS. And so we have to be careful with that. So there is some like, oh, I have to write specific logic for an iOS device or for an Android device. But what's really nice is we use Expo, which is like a package management tool and framework for mobile development with React Native. And it takes care of a lot of that stuff for us, which has been super nice. So I'd say 9 times out of 10, you write React code. I mean, you're writing React code. The components are a little different. You're not using like vanilla React components. You're using React Native components, but they're basically, you're just writing JavaScript React. And it is then React Native libraries and Expo are able to transcompile that into mobile facing code for both iOS and Android pretty seamlessly, which is super nice.
Well, thank you, Ethan and Maggie, for presenting here. Just a reminder to everybody else, you can go see them and the rest of their team over at their virtual table until 4:45. Thanks very much.
Yeah,
Thanks so
thank
much.
you.
I'll forward the link to our booth, I guess, if anyone wants to visit. But
it's also on the website underneath where you got the link to this as well.
Cool.
Great job, Ethan.
Thanks, everyone.